Welcome to Finding the Truth with Myke Hideous. I'm an artist, photographer, and an author. In the late 80s, I created a band called The Empire Hideous. Until 2009, I was a PC liberal Democrat, after which I became an independent. I believe in science, and I consider myself an alchemist who seeks answers to difficult questions. You're listening to Finding the Truth with me, Myke Hideous. Hey folks, thanks for listening, and we are broadcasting today. Today's date is January 9th, 2024, and thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in, and I'd like to introduce my co-host, engineer, producer, and colleague and friend, Z. Say hello, Z.
Hello, Z.
All right. Go back.
Good
in
evening,
your cage.
everybody.
Go back in your cage.
Fine. I'll stay behind the curtain here.
All right. So what's going on? What's happening out there?
Well, you know, it's another week of interesting news stories, but I think you had the idea, and we're going to do today's topic as the episode title is "The State of Morality in America." That's right. And that is definitely a heavy topic. Hopefully we can maintain the audience's attention. But it's honestly a very important topic, given what the news has been reporting lately, and just the concern in general for the state of our nation.
This is true.
So, did you have some thoughts to get us started on this one, Myke?
Oh, where do I begin? America, the morality of America has stooped incredibly low. There was a point in time. Here's an interesting fact for you. If you go back just before the 60s, even maybe the early to mid 70s, there were people who still went to church. I, having grown up a Roman Catholic, I used to go to church up until I was 13. I was forced to go, by the way. I never wanted to go.
You were literally dragged, kicking and screaming? I mean,
No, I was told, because if I didn't go, I'd get my ass beat.
Well, I think we all had that experience. I don't know how many kids are just like, oh, yes, I'm ready to go to church. It really does depend on how much religion you get at home. But, yeah, I was never, enthusiastic about going to church, but I certainly I wouldn't call it as dragged or forced to go.
Right. Well, what I'm getting at is this. So at a point in time, there were still people who went to church.
Sure.
For a matter of fact, my father, who just died 2022, he used to go to church every single day from 1982. No, wait. Was it 82? From 1982 until 2018. My father went to church every day. Now, I'm not going to get into all the details, but I want you to know he went to church every day for me. Okay?
Okay.
He made a commitment to God that he would go to church every day. This is when I was 16 in 1982. I got my first bout with cancer, and I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. I had to get major surgery and all kinds of shit. He made a vow to God that he'd go to church every day if God saved my life.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Commitment to this man was unbelievable. Every single fucking day, my dad went to church for decades. So, I stopped going to church at age 13 after I got my confirmation. I got, the whole CCD Sunday school. I went to get my penance, my communion, and eventually confirmation. So the whole point to it is this. Are you still there?
Yes, I am. I just muted myself because I was getting up and it would have made noise.
Okay, because I did see the mute. I didn't know what was happening. All right, I'll continue.
Yes.
So what I'm getting at is there are people who went to church and were inspired by these, how would I describe it as? These formalities of living, these methods of living. Lead a good life, work hard, donate to the church, raise your
Sounds
family.
like principles.
That's a good word for it, yes. Raise a family, have a wife, procreate, so on and so forth. That was the way, like the American way, for many years. Okay, so there were morals in those people who were Christians, and still are to this day. All right, fast forward.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's honestly just to give credit to Judeo-Christian, beliefs. The Ten Commandments says it all.
Right.
Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, and if you have that faith, it's certainly you want to follow those rules.
Right. So here's the point. So you and it's not just Christianity. It is also other religions. When all the religions were, except Islam and Muslim. I'm not part of that. I mean, that's just a whole other crazy thing I can't even describe right now. So for right now, I'm going to talk about Judaism and Christianity. So those were the two primary religions of America. The Muslim religion was really not a big thing in America until after 9/11, and I challenge anybody on that subject.
How do you mean that? Do you mean the population of Muslims, or
no?
Those that identified as Muslim?
Exposing it as a religion of America, which it is not. America was brought up on Judeo-Christian values. The Muslim religion was brought into the American system after 9/11, when George Bush was telling us, well, the Muslims are our friends and this, that, and the other thing, and everything all of a sudden was like Muslim this and Muslim that. Anyway, but that's not my point. That's a whole other subject. So here's the thing. So you have America brought up on these values of Judeo-Christian values, and it was about how to be a good person working in America, raising your family, and so on. Fast forward to around, I'd say like the late 70s, even in the 80s, particularly in the 80s, you start having a decline in people who believe in religion, who go to church or the synagogue, and they start falling away from their religions. Okay. Then you also had the whole scandal.
After the 60s.
You also had the whole scandal with the Catholic Church in how there were things going on with children, and the people got angry about that, and rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
So, here's what happens after that downfall of people no longer going to church and believing in God, or becoming atheists, or being raised atheists. You have this gap. Now you've got people who are growing up, and this is just a portion of what I'm getting to. You've got people growing up without the morals of religion to lead a prosperous, productive life. In addition to that, you have the downfall of education. You have the downfall of parenting. You have a lot of kids getting pregnant at a young age. As a result, their children are not being taught properly. You have a divorce rate that it skyrocketed through the 70s and 80s, and even now. You had people who don't want to get married because of their career. So all of these factors are all coupled together, and you have the loss, little by little by little, of morals in America. And that's
exactly
a very sad thing.
And what you describe is really how things have been deteriorating over the last number of decades. And certainly the 60s hippie revolution started making people question their beliefs and question the family structure and the traditions as well. Yep. So it's
plus
definitely
they were into communism.
Well, sure, or just basic Marxism or socialism, but
Yep.
there's definitely that was one of the periods in time where it really became out in the open, essentially, that there are other belief systems than what you were raised on, and then people could feel the right to pick and choose because this is a free country, of course. But it certainly has been. I just want to bring up another interesting point from my perspective, and just looking at our culture in general. Well, just to give you some background for the audience to say, I was raised Episcopalian. And so I had my background and morals come from that. I also was a Boy Scout at one point, and they're very big about teaching principles and values and morals.
Right.
And it's one of the things that I wonder in my world, when I've had conversations with other people, is like, where do we get morals if you don't get it from religion or get it from a group or organization like, the Boy Scouts or 4-H or for some
Parenting.
other, club, or from parenting, family, having one of those mentors essentially in your family that, gives you some idea what right and wrong is.
That's right.
But it's just stunning the lack of where it doesn't seem to come into people's minds, of thinking in moral ways. So I'm going to bring this around to a current news story. I just was looking up, and this is just as of today. It's a headline story. Hang on a second. Let me bring it back up. And this one is about this guy who decided to basically murder his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy is a Mayo Clinic doctor. And he's charged with murdering his wife, who was poisoned after they had an open relationship and it failed. So basically, whoops, sorry. I'm getting background noise. It wasn't broadcasted. Anyway, so the story goes on to talk about how this doctor allegedly poisoned his wife with unnecessary gout medication. A theory allegedly supported by the man's search history and strange behavior after her death. So it's just amazing that this is a story because this guy, you still with me?
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm sorry, just lost the visuals. Anyway, it's just a stunning story on the surface of it, because all right, you're having an open relationship, and so he suddenly starts feeling that he, wants to be possessive. I mean, I'm just going to read into the story a little bit, but this is the solution, is to murder your wife?
Right.
I mean, I really do not understand how this is an option in any scenario. And it's like a daily story, really. You can read about things about people doing amazingly stupid things. There's another story I just saw earlier about how a stranger walked into somebody's backyard in the middle of the night. And the owner of the house went out with a gun and told him to get off the property or else I'll shoot. And he walked towards him. Mm-hmm. And the guy's gone now. Well, so he's never going to trespass again. But it's like, what are you thinking?
A great point, Z, and that is this. I have noticed when I watch some of the clips that I see on YouTube or wherever of criminals or people being convicted or in court, a lot of them are young, like teenagers who have killed people in the most horrific ways. They're all tattooed on their face and everything, gang members, and they laugh and they taunt the parents or the wife or husband of the victims. There's no remorse by these people. They are cold-hearted, and I sincerely believe that a portion of the reason why they are like this is because, not fully, but a portion of the reason is because what is being displayed on TV, movies, on the internet, through video games, where killing is just another way or another part of life. It's survive or be killed. And that's in my opinion, that's the mentality that some of these people have.
Well, you're not wrong, and it's like they are definitely there's a desensitization. Blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm trying to say.
Desensitization?
The people are being desensitized.
Yeah, that's better.
Towards basically violence against one another. But I'm going to just bring it up in a couple of different ways. It is stunning because as you were describing that, it made me think of this story from last year about the middle of the year in the fall. And it was out of Arizona. And there was a 64-year-old retired police officer who was bicycling down the road one morning.
That's exactly who I was just talking about. The
that's
kids
what you were
in the court. Yeah, they were like
right, exactly. Yeah. So that's what I thought you might have been talking about. And their behavior in the court is so just not even disrespectful to the family, but to humanity.
Exactly.
I mean, what is wrong with you? And I'm pretty sure I know you're not a gamer, but there's a game out there called Grand Theft Auto.
I know what it is.
And essentially,
I never played it, but
it's a huge virtual world where you can do illegal things all the time. And so getting in a car and running over people is something you do all the time in Grand Theft Auto. So, and you get, rewarded for it.
Right. So the question then becomes, do you stifle freedom of speech and freedom of expression through these games and or movies and whatever other media you're displaying some? Does that stifle a freedom in America to say, hey, I'm going to write a movie. Let's say I'm Quentin Tarantino and I write the movie Kill Bill. Like 300 people got killed in that movie. So was Quentin Tarantino wrong to make that film, which is completely fantasy, as we all know, but some people see it and they think, oh, I could do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to be a gangbanger. I'm going to be cool.
Well, it's interesting. When you were describing that, I just thought back to another conversation we had about movies, and a movie you asked me to watch recently, and we talked about it, but it's called Birth of a Nation.
Ah, yes. Yes.
And I don't know if you saw that other clip I sent you recently, but they basically described how that when that movie came out, I guess this has more or less been verified, there was a bunch of actual lynchings that occurred.
Yes. Because
of how in that movie it portrayed the KKK in a positive light, and when it started getting played around the country, people were inspired.
That's right.
And that's another actual point that maybe it's really good I brought this up, because I'm seriously really concerned about the state of morality in America, but in all humans, but specifically this is my country, so this is the one where we should be free to. I don't know if freedom means that you should be moral, but here's my point. Going to another movie, The Gangs of New York by Martin Scorsese.
Great movie.
Yep. And it depicts the time during the draft riots in New York City. Right. In the 1860s.
New Amsterdam, if I recall, right?
Yep.
New Amsterdam.
And, I watched that movie and I was just stunned because it's about the gangs, which are morally corrupt individuals that have no problem killing, other individuals just over the fact that they have a different belief system or whatever, or they have an accent. And then you actually have the politicians, which are greedy in the same thing, and they're looking to do underhanded deals, and so they're immoral.
Do you remember who the president was back then? Was it Wilson?
No, it wasn't, because this is 1860. So this is this 1860 is when Lincoln was elected. So Lincoln was president, and he instituted the draft for the Civil War.
I was thinking of either the mayor or the governor that was in that movie.
Oh.
And I can't recall what his name was.
I don't remember.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Lincoln was the president at that point. Yeah. My apologies.
And people were really pissed. And they were, again, there's the just general racism thing against any other ethnicities. And obviously towards the black population, being that what the Civil War was all about. It just goes to show you how this is ingrained in our society. And definitely, morals get to be taught, but so does immoral activity get to be taught.
I want to stop you for 1 second. I want to stop you for 1 second.
We're in the 1860s.
Hold that thought. Okay? Hold that thought of what you're talking about. Okay, so I want to make a comment about Civil War. Civil War was not entirely because of slavery.
No. Yeah.
And here are some of the facts which are no longer taught in American schools as basic factual education. So, number one, excessive taxes were imposed on the agrarian, I think I said that word right, economy.
Agrarian, yes.
Did I say it right? Okay. Of the
Close
southern
enough.
of the southern states, which was predominantly used for infrastructure improvements and in the industrial north. Cultural values was another reason. Another reason was decades of simmering tension over the addition of slave states in the westward expansion of America. Another one was the economic control of the federal government that would essentially favor the northern states, and then state rights and the rights of succession. So that was those were the main reasons for the Civil War. A lot of people think it was just about slavery, and that is not the case. So
well, it's not just about slavery, but I mean,
you just got an educational lesson in Civil War.
Well, you're not wrong. There is definitely other reasons, and one of the contentious parts in Gangs of New York, because that was a book that was written in the early 1900s that Scorsese used to make the movie, and they pointed out how much of the product that was being produced in the South came through New York City. So it's tough for people in New York City to be wanting to fight those in the South when basically that's where, business was coming from. So they didn't have any other source of imports, necessarily at that point, except for the South. But the thing is that, from my perspective, it's like I just see it. Morality gets to be taught just like immorality. And if we're dealing with generational hatred, racism, and immoral, behavior, that's where we're at today.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's so stunning to me how often I read a news story and it's like, what in your right mind makes you think you could get away with that and be free? There's another woman last year who went and murdered this girl who was a cyclist because she thought this girl was dating her previous boyfriend. Mm-hmm. And then she ran away to a foreign country after murdering this girl and got plastic surgery and still got captured and brought back to the United States. And at one point while she was in jail, she tried to break out and run away. It's like, where do you think you're going after you committed the murder and everybody knows you did it?
Well,
where are you going to try and enjoy your life and, after you've made this horrific decision? Like, it's stunning,
Well, that's the thing. What I was getting to is that a lot of it today, there are two main points that you can point at to say, here's the decline. A, parenting. B, education.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can throw religion in there, but as you can see, I'm really not a religious person. So here's what I'm getting at. I can respect those.
Oh, for the audience, there's a pentagram on his T-shirt, just to make sure everybody's just listening. Inverted pentagram.
So what I'm saying is that I can respect people who want to better their lives, their communities, their families, because let's face it, in order to make things better, you have to have good communities, you have to have good family, you have to have people who follow the rules. When you don't follow the rules, you're basically stepping back into tribal times where tribes fought against each other and killed and plundered and raped and did the things that they did to their opposing tribe. So here we are in what's considered to be the modern times in society. And you have, again, like I see images on social media of kids in high school threatening their teachers, beating other kids within an inch of their lives. Now, when I was in high school, okay, I graduated high school in 1984. Hello.
Hello.
When I was in high school, I went to John F. Kennedy High School in Paterson, New Jersey. And do you know we used to have a rifle class? We used to have classes where kids used to fire rifles. You know, and
I believe it.
Nobody ever thought of taking that gun and pointing it at another student and killing them.
Well,
because the gym teacher would have beat the living friggin' hell out of you for even thinking such a thing.
Well, I don't even think the thing is that that's actually a perfect example, and I'm glad you brought this up because one of the things that's clear from history is the fact that 100 years ago, every family and every kid knew how to use a gun for the most part because at some point their father taught them, or their whoever in their family taught them how to use it.
Usually the father.
Right. But I mean, yeah, depending on how your family unit is, but it could be grandpa, it could be, the neighbor, but in either case, guns were plentiful. And there was never, actually it's kind of interesting.
It was a tool of the family.
Yeah,
you used it for hunting and protection.
But, now you have clearly, disturbed children that are able to go to the schools and do something to hurt the other people.
And the teachers have their hands tied. They cannot do anything because if they do, the first thing the parents will do is sue them for putting their hands on another child or getting loud with the child and trying to, put it in its right place.
There's that fear, but I mean, essentially, I'm a big proponent at this point of just having armed guards, in the schools.
You're going to have to at some point.
You don't have to do the metal detectors and the whole, bag searching thing, but, at the very least have somebody on premises that has a gun and knows how to use it and is trustworthy. But regardless, getting back to just, 100 years ago, actually, if you actually do the Google, I did this actually after one of the last incidents, and you look up the history of school shootings, it actually goes back a couple of centuries. But it's never been as prevalent and with as many victims as it is nowadays because, of course, the modern, weapons that are available. But, it's just really sad that, at this point, whatever was happening, you'd have to read through the history. I spent like a good half an hour reading back over these different school shootings. And it was all, sometimes it was mostly adults against the kids. But, now we've got the kids killing the kids. Yeah.
So teachers were killing kids?
Not necessarily teachers, but I'd have to remember, again, this is our audience, well, maybe I'll try and put this in the description or something, a link to Wikipedia, but there's a whole list of events and there's all sorts of reasons. And I think even one guy set fire to the school while, the kids couldn't get out or something like
goodness,
that.
That's horrible. Well, in modern times, where we are now, a lot of what's happening now is as a result of Columbine.
Well, sure. It seems
1990. What was that? 98 or 99? 98.
I think it was 98, but
Somewhere
that certainly
98.
was a point back in history. It seems to have been, picking up since then.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested in any of the merchandise that I sell, you can go to MykeHideous.com. Just like the name of our program here, Finding the Truth with Myke Hideous. If you go to MykeHideous.com, you can get my book, which is called King of an Empire to the Shoes of a Misfit. It is about my years as a performer and a musician, and covers a range from 1988 to 2014. It also talks about my short but very successful point in time when I sang for the famous punk rock band known as the Misfits from Lodi, New Jersey. And you can also get my t-shirts, my horrible artwork, horror design, blankets, t-shirts, throw pillows, girls' dresses, so on and so forth, as well as my music, downloadable CDs, what else? I don't even. Just go to the damn website and check it out. So yeah, that's what I got. You can, and the most recent thing is the book. Hopefully I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have a whole bunch of new t-shirts up and ready to go for sale. And that's not just the music stuff from Empire Hideous, the band that I was in, but this whole other section of design of clothing that I have with my artwork designs on them, and I call it horrible artwork. And it's going to be all kinds of stuff like that, old, creepy stuff. In case anybody doesn't know my background, I kind of dabble in the occult, so all creepy, cool stuff like that. So yeah, folks, if you're interested in anything, go to MykeHideous.com. Click on the shop section and go down, and a couple other clicks and you're there. Thanks very much, guys.